And we're back, y'all. Part 2. Stay tuned, y'all. And we're back. Before we jump back to the subject at hand, I just wanted to show y'all that, yes, I've always been into like history and knowing some information in terms of like some historical background, mythology, all mysticism of all types, existentialism, and when it's interwoven into a story, even better. But I just wanted to show you guys that little information about myself. And yes, it's a Halloween costume, but I still think I really did a really decent job. The costume was like probably from one of those spirit places or whatever back in the day. And I am accompanied with somebody who's dressed as Cleopatra, but I've blocked her out, just non-relevant person. But nonetheless, I just wanted to show myself. That is me as Nefertiti. And yeah, I think I donned the crown really well. And Nefertiti is known as, you know, she didn't really don any earrings or anything like that. She had a very oval, beautiful facial structure, and I believe that they have been able to kind of go based on her skull or remnants of her skull to kind of manufacture what she would have looked like back in the day. But I think I did a decent job. I don't know, y'all let me know in the comment section down below if I did a decent look. And again, I've always done this. I've always loved dress up and whatnot. We are listening to Arab Trap, which is part of the Moon Knight soundtrack. They have really killer music when it comes to the series. So yes, getting back to episode, and I didn't want to gloss over certain things. We'll get back to episode 4, but I want to say, like, even the way episode 2 ends, episode 2 ends with what's the title? Summon the Suit. When I think Steven is coming into terms of what's happening and how Mark has so much control over his body, or has, and has lived a full-fledged life with Layla. And in trying to further pursue, especially the compass that is the scarab, he travels to, I believe, Egypt, and we have a bare-chested Oscar Isaac. And I know it sounds very fangirly, but we need to see more of that. Like, I mean, I haven't seen all of Oscar's film trajectory, but the small amount, I feel like there's still no justice. We need to, that man is fit. So I was like, whoo, I mean, finally something for us older gals, you know, because I know a lot of these like shows are really, or series or movies are catered to a younger audience, but that was an ending, like it was a bare chest of like, yes please, and pan down. Again, I just have to keep it 100 on my channel. So I want to say the friendly type, we have more of an understanding of Steven and his nerdy ways of being able to break down mythology and the mappings and the inner workings of what it was to be mummified. He can break down maps. He encompasses everything that he comes across when it comes to mummification. and how essential he is to Mark, because Mark is much more of like the muscle, but Steven is the brains. So, and I think Layla finally comes to terms with what's happening. And we see hints of them really getting along and her feeling perplexed because it's like, who am I really? Like, he looks like my husband, he behaves like my husband, and at times he is my husband, and then he flips, and then it's Steven, and it's not, and it's like, and they're like in the middle of a divorce, so it's a very knotted, complex situation between them both. And plus, now we're also finding out about Khonshu and his perhaps love interest at one point with that other goddess, and how that's interconnected as well. But we see, like, the heart of the show, and how, most things are driven by emotion and love. And that's how we are met with this character at the end of the tomb for episode 4, and this introduction of this new goddess, which I believe her name, because she is female, is wait, let's see, Taweret. Again, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing it, but she seems very sweet in her introduction. She seemed very lighthearted and very sweet, and although she seems very menacing, because it's a very, like, the details that they've gotten down for these characters, is she looks very much like a hippo, but when she opens her mouth, it's like, hi. It's a sweet introduction to her, especially for this show, for the MCU. So I always do my research, and I will link it down below. But we have an understanding that this is the introduction they wanted to do with all these characters, and especially how we are seeing this part of the continent, of Africa. So the Moon Knight comics have generously, and this is on movieweb.com, and I will link it down below. So here's this little small excerpt. The Moon Knight comics have generously shared an abundant amount of imagery from Egyptian mythology across their pages, and have inserted Khonshu as a primary character. Khonshu is a driving force in Mark's life, as he is imperative for him to retain his identity as Moon Knight among his other personalities. Emmett, or Amut, has been featured from issue to issue throughout Moon Knight, and was later written into the Disney Plus series after claiming Arthur Harrow, Ethan Hawke, as his earthly avatar. Taweret, curiously enough, is not to be found in the comics, and is assumed to be a creative decision from the team behind the live-action rendition. Director and executive producer Mohammed Daib dedicated his mission to presenting Egypt and its culture through the most authentic representation, meaning that there is an attempt to reach past and inspiration of the comics in order to craft a series that it can articulate its most necessary details while being able to honor the North African nation. And again, kudos to Disney and this production team, because they really have given a voice to representation. Like, we have actual directors, of the culture, and representing in its best light their culture, their mysticism, their mythology. Everything is interjected here. All the culture, from the crescent moon to the mummification, to even the wardrobe, certain colors that are used, symbols that are seen, the soundtrack, they're from artists from this particular region. So again, everything is like done so well and flawlessly that doesn't feel like it's forced, like in other shows that I've reviewed that does feel forced. And and it's great that somebody of the culture is behind the lens, because they're gonna portray it as best as they can. to not only entertain but to also educate, like I've mentioned in past in recent past, like my last episode. And again, everybody's a person of color playing lead roles. I mean, I gotta say, I really give credit to Oscar, because I feel like also because of his aesthetic, he can play a multitude of ethnicities. You really can't clock him. But I love the fact that he's Guatemalan and he's half Cuban. And he's just like every character that he's embodied, I believe, and this was a personal choice too, because he wanted to differentiate between both characters of Steven and Mark. And we'll see the introduction of a third personality, which we'll see hopefully either in the next episode or the last episode. But he wanted to differentiate it, and that's why he gave Steven an English accent. And there's a whole backstory to that, because in the comic books, I think it's just just a regular guy, just different from Mark. But he really wanted to make that clear to audiences that it was a whole different ball game. And not for nothing, you really can't say that his accent isn't on point. So he does the work. So this is what I'm saying. I was introduced to Oscar's work because of Star Wars, and then again, like scenes from a marriage, and I have to catch up on Dune. But and then when I started researching his like past work, I didn't even know he was in Drive. I was like, whoa, he's been working for a while now. And so, but again, we'll get into that. Also, I have to review his comrade and fellow acting partner, Jessica Chastain, for The Eyes of Tammy Faye. That's up next too. But again, I don't want to go too much into a tangent. I'm under the assumption this new introduction of this goddess, which from what I'm under the impression, she is a protector of females and families, specifically in children. But I also feel like she serves as a guide, from what I'm reading, to people who have like maybe transitioned. I don't know. We still don't know what happened to Mark. Did he really die? Also, because now in episode 4 we're privy, or made privy to the fact that how Mark met his wife, that he basically met her as not as an obligation, but he wanted to tell her what had happened to her father, who was our archaeologist at the time. And because Mark was part of some mercenary kind of grouping, they executed all those archaeologists. And I think either she was there, but from what I'm under the impression that she wasn't there. But he had been carrying that guilt, and how he approached her was that he was going to confess what had happened. He had nothing to do with her father's killing, but his partner did. And when he was not for that, his partner, I think, beat him to a bloody pulp where he almost died himself, but he didn't. And I think he was, remorseful of what had happened, and somehow that's how he's able to conjure up Khonshu, and Khonshu is able to resurrect him, at least in the comic books from what I've read. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. You can leave a comment down below. Try to be nice. But that's how he went about meeting Layla, and she didn't know that, so she went and fell in love with him. They had a whole marriage, for heaven's sake. And that's why there's a moment where they're separated, because while she's trying to find an exit, she runs into Arthur, who's our villain, or what we're led to believe as our villain, and he lets her know what happened between Mark and her father. And she feels that she's been lied to. And so there's this moment of like, I don't even know if I want to talk to you or know you. And then that was his golden opportunity, Arthur's opportunity to slay Mark. So we don't know if this new Egyptian goddess is gonna either serve as a bridge between Mark and the underworld, or is she gonna resuscitate him? We don't know. I'm very curious of where this might lead, and if there's a possibility for reconciliation between Layla and Mark. What happens to Steven in the midst of all this? Because it seems like Steven is falling for Layla. They had even a little romantic, kissy time. So is he feeling some kind of way? Are sparks flying for those two? Would she want to? Because it's like she knows it's not her husband, but it is her husband, which is, again, what a mental situation, because you really don't know. And this is what I want to say also, is that, so a lot of people have said that this character is closely related, or what would be considered like Batman, but for the Marvel world. I know that Batman is DC Comics, but that he has a lot of things in common with what would be considered Batman or Bruce Wayne, right? So, but because he has these mental health issues, we don't know what we're looking at, because this would be typically in the DC world, a person that suffers from DID would be considered a person that wouldn't be stable and wouldn't be our typical hero. But here he is in the Marvel world, he is considered like the hero, because again, he is fighting for the little guy, for the underdog, and but he himself is going through all of these mental health issues. So again, is technically, because we don't have like a full understanding of this supposed villain, right? Ethan Hawke's character of Arthur. So is he really this villainous person? Although from what we've seen, at least in the first 2 episodes, it's almost like he can predict, foretell, like almost like a fortune teller. He can tell what kind of life you've led, or if you've been, or it'll lead to good or to malice, and then it's like quickly decide whether you should live or not. And by holding his hands, that person can quickly just die. So is he really a good person or not? We don't necessarily know. Is he good intentioned? We don't know. Is this all just, images that Mark is having in his head? We don't know. What about that third split character that we still don't even know if he's also to blame for all the violence that, because again, once that personality takes over, it's like lights out. You don't know what's happened until like that person comes back, Steven or Mark. So very interesting show, though, I gotta say. And there's a couple of other characters here that have yet to be seen. So just based on the IMDb page, there's a number of other actors that we haven't seen yet. So I'm curious how they'll be interwoven into the series for the last 2 episodes. But I'm very curious. They got me hooked for sure. For heaven's sake, I spent almost a week trying to create that mask, and I'm very, very proud of it. And yeah, I'll link the video in the description box below if you guys are interested in making your own Moon Knight mask.
He's mortal.
That's my favorite scene from The Mummy. Again, it doesn't get enough props. But yes, nonetheless, this is a different perspective on the same mythology, but again, really entertaining. I can't rave about it enough. I'm really eager to find out what else happens on the show. Yeah, that's all I really can say for it right now. And if you like what you see, give us a like, give us a share. If you would like to see more of my reviews and hauls and whatnot, hit the subscription button and the notification button up top. I'm anxious to review a few more great shows that I've caught recently. Atlanta, I have to get back on Atlanta. The last 3 episodes were whoa. And I just saw Batman too, so getting into the whole like cosplay thing, which I have a whole thing planned out for that as well. So stay tuned for that. That's coming. And also, what is going on with Hulu with all of these like crazy but yet entertaining shows? Like there's something about Pam. That was something that I was not expecting. Again, all of these shows that are just like pumping out. And ooh, Russian Doll. I just saw Russian Doll on Netflix. That was really good. Season 2. And Ozark is on this Friday. Oh my god, I can't. I'm really excited to review that because, I mean, the first half of this last season, which I think it was season 4 now, my heart's going to break once they're done because that was a show. You needed to watch that. So I'm very eager to review that. That's coming on Friday. It's going to make its debut on Friday. So, but yes, y'all. Let's play this out, y'all. Get your Moon Knight mask on. I can't, again, I'm very proud of it, so I'm going to show it off as much as I can. But yeah, stream it now on Disney Plus, y'all. This is dope, I gotta say. The soundtrack is banging. Alright, y'all. Till my next video. Get into it. Nerdygirl reviews. It's awesome. Nerdygirl.